All right, for this activity, this is going to be a review on solving multi-step equations. I don't want you to forget how to solve equations. It's very important that we remember this because you will need it all through high school from here on out in your math classes. So what this is it's a scavenger hunt. We've done things like this before in class. So you have 12 different cards. And what's going to happen is when you get an answer, that answer will be found on another card. And then that will be the card that you do next. So this will all be one big loop when we're done. So again, I like to do these things, especially whenever I can't be there with you all the time, because if you can't find your answer somewhere on a card, you know something went wrong. It's kind of just a quick self-check, so you know to look back and find out where your mistake was. So what you're going to do here is I left these equations, these boxes here, so that you can move them. And I'm going to show you why I did that on purpose. So you're going to start with any problem you want. I'm going to show one to you to help you out. It might be one of the ones you might struggle with, so I'm going to go ahead and do it in this video to help you. And then I'll show you what you're supposed to do. So I'm going to do one of these with you, and I'm going to choose to do letter F, because again, it does not matter where you start, but in the end, it should all wrap around. So I'm going to do card letter F. So what's going to happen is you have a recording sheet down here. This is where you can show all of your work and where you can drag your problems. So I'm going to tap letter F, touch right there in the dead center where those two lines are crossing, and I'm going to drag it down to the box that I'm going to do my work in. Now personally, so I have plenty of space to write, I'm going to actually make it a little bit smaller, and then I'm going to zoom in too. Okay, so let me zoom in. Okay, so this is the problem that we're going to work on. Let me get ready to draw. All I ask is, as usual, you can do all of your work on a piece of paper if that's easier for you. That's perfectly fine with me. It's the same thing as doing it on your iPad, as long as you send me the picture. So it's no problem at all. If you don't have a stylus at home, I would actually recommend that because it can get pretty sloppy as you write. So let me change the color so it'll stand out a little bit. Well, let's do this green. All right, so let's look at this problem. We have negative 4 times x plus 1 divided by 7 plus 19 equals 3 times the quantity x minus 1. So there's a lot going on in this problem. Again, that's why I chose to do it in this video, so I can help you with that. So as usual, the first thing we should do when we see parentheses is do the distributive property. In other words, we need to multiply. We have two things with parentheses actually. So we need to multiply. Let me see if I can zoom in even more. The negative 4 times the x, the negative 4 times the 1. Then we're also going to need to multiply with parentheses over here. We have to do 3 times x and 3 times negative 1. All right, so just like we read, let's work from left to right. So negative 4 times x. They have nothing in common, so we're just going to squish them together. So negative 4x. Okay, that's taken care of. Now we also need to do negative 4 times a positive 1. So negative 4 times 1. That turns into a negative 4. Okay, so we took care of parentheses. We didn't touch any of the other numbers, so we still have to keep them. So we still have to keep the divided by 7, and we still have to keep the plus 19. Then we put our equal sign. Now we need to distribute on the other side. 3 times x, that is 3x. 3 times negative 1, that's negative 3. Okay, so we did one step. We got rid of parentheses, so that's taken care of. The next step is to start to combine like terms. So again, this problem might look a little confusing for you, so I'm going to give you a couple tips as to what you do if you run into this type of situation. Obviously, we're going to eventually want to get rid of this fraction. But for now, let's take it one step further and focus on this 19. It would be really helpful if we could get it away from that fraction. And you'll see why here in a minute whenever we do take care of it. But let's focus on getting that positive 19 over to the other side. So this is where we do our inverse operations. In other words, where we do the opposites. So the opposite of a positive 19 would be to subtract 19. And remember, we have to keep equations balanced. So what you do on one side, and again, when I talk about sides, I mean where the equal sign is. So I'll even draw a line. Now we have sides. Okay, so we also have to subtract 19 over here. Positive 19 minus 19 gives you 0, so it cancels. You're going to be left with everything else on this side. So we still have a negative 4x, we still have a minus 4, and we still have a divided by 7. Equals, the 3x doesn't change, but our numbers do. Negative 3 minus 19. It's a negative 22. Okay, so now we have this fraction still happening. And remember, fractions are the same as division. So in order to get rid of that 7 on the bottom, instead of dividing by 7, which is what's happening right now, we need to multiply by 7. And again, what you do on one side, you have to do to the other side. So let me explain why we're doing that again. This was dividing. We had something divided by 7. So in order to cancel it out, to get rid of it, we have to do the opposite, which would be to multiply by 7. Now the reason I put parentheses on both sides is because absolutely everything you see in your problem has to be multiplied by 7. That's the only way to make this work. We have to keep it balanced. So make sure you multiply everything by 7. So the cool thing is that makes this side super easy, because what happens is these cancel each other out and you're left with what was on top. That does not change. Oops, something happened. So now you're just left with your negative 4x minus 4. That will not change, but the 7's canceled. Equals, and here's where we have to multiply. So we need to multiply, just like we did at the beginning, 7 times 3x and 7 times negative 22. 7 times 3x would be 21x, and 7 times negative 22 is negative 154. Okay, so now it's starting to not look as messy from what we started with. Now it's actually looking pretty simple to what we spent a lot of time on at the beginning of the year. Now we need to focus on bringing the x's together and bringing the numbers together. So we can avoid some negative signs. Let's focus on bringing this negative 4x over to the other side. So the opposite of a negative 4x would be to add 4x. Okay, so that cancels. You're left with your negative 4 equals 21 x's plus 4 more x's would be 25 x's minus 154. And now we have two numbers to bring together, so we only have 2 steps left. We have to bring negative 154 over to the other side where the negative 4 is. So the opposite would be to add it. That's going to cancel. So negative 4 plus 154. You're going to be left with, I'm going to write it over here to the right, 150 equals 25x. And now we're at our last step. Remember, when a number is touching the variable, the letter, 25 times x, that's what it means, multiplication. So in order to get rid of the 25 so that the x is finally all by itself, we have to divide. $150 divided by 25 gives you 6. So again, I purposely did this one with you because I knew it would be a more challenging one. But that's what I need to see. I need to see your work. I need to see your steps. You can type them out if you can type them out, if that works for you. If you have a stylus, that works good, like how I did in the video. Or if you write it on a piece of paper, make sure you attach the picture. So here's what's going to happen. Here's what I got, x equals 6. Let's go make sure that's somewhere up there in one of the cards. Yep, right there it is. X equals 6 is letter E. So that means the next problem I'm going to do would be letter E. And again, you can make those a little bit smaller and then end up zooming in so that you have room to write. Oops. But that would be the next problem you do. It would be really helpful as well if you remember, you could, sorry, I was getting a phone call in the middle of the video. You can number them as well. So that was card number 1. This is going to be card number 2. You don't have to, but that would be helpful probably for both of us, you and me, when I'm looking through it in case something would get jumbled around. Okay, so that is your assignment, a review on multi-step equations.